The Substance is directed by Coralie Fargate. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. And stars Margaret Qualley, Dennis Quaid, and Demi Moore. A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell-replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. This is a body horror film, and it's not the kind of horror that I often see a lot. As of recently, you would usually see a bunch of ghost stuff, or slashers, or, like emotional stuff going on with characters that are turned into horror stuff. And, you don't get a lot of body horror nowadays. It is like a dead genre of horror that just doesn't get put out a lot. Maybe you get a bit of body horror here and there in some films, but this movie is pure body horror. It's disgusting. It is practical, which makes it even worse in the best possible way. The performances from Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore as this fading celebrity that's trying to recapture her glory days is very interesting to watch. It is a very horny movie too at the same time. So if you feel risque or even hungry, just wanting some food at all, don't have any of those feelings. You are going to leave this movie throwing up, especially at the end, because a lot of the body horror elements comes immediately after a lot of those moments, and it's those shifts in tones and emotions that the movie does a really good job at. It gets you surprised, it gets you uneased. I felt like the performances from these two actresses were really good in how they feel very different, to the point where you could understand the main character Demi Moore and the main character Mark Qualley and what they're playing. They feel like each other is not doing what they're supposed to, even though they're both doing this whole thing wrong, and they're not really listening to all the precautions, because a lot of their emotions and what they want further exceed what is limited to them. So seeing them push themselves forward to try and create a better version of themselves, this is very interesting to see. And Dennis Quaid as the catalyst of this, as a producer who doesn't really care about anyone around him and only is looking at the money or how pretty the actress is. He is really despicable here. He does a really good job at playing this producer who you just want to hate. The movie is also shot really well and is very well directed. It has a poppy tone to the look of the film and how upbeat everything is supposed to be. But once things get darker, the film doesn't shy away from being lit like a horror film, showcasing the body horror to its fullest potential, and the overall pacing of the direction that led to much of what happens in the final act, I think does a really good job suspense-wise at getting us invested as to what's going on with the story and what the characters are going through. You understand their emotions. There's a great scene where Demi Moore is trying to put on makeup and has so much insecurity piling up on her before she goes on this date that she can't bring herself to really be happy by the way she looks, and it leads to a very emotional moment where she just couldn't go out. It is a fantastic scene that I think was played out really well by the actress here. The production design is great. I really like how slick and glamorous everything is. It felt like we are in a Hollywood area that is both ruggedy outside of it Yet when you get indoors, it is all nice and fancy and clean, and it feels like this is where the characters feel at home kind of the most. But once they get out and we see all the regular stuff everywhere, you feel all their insecurities now just piling on. It is great production design. All in all, this film I thought was really good. If I had to have any problems with it, is I feel like the middle act of the film could have been trimmed down a little bit. There's probably a few scenes or shots there that I felt like could have been cut out and not much of the plot would change. Though each scene does push the characters forward in a way, but I don't feel like every single one of them felt absolutely necessary, especially for the pacing, because sometimes it can feel like a bit of a drag. And with this film being 2 hours and 20 minutes, it is still very well paced. I feel like maybe 5 minutes or so could have been trimmed down just a tiny bit, just to make the pacing flow a little bit better. Also, I didn't find the music all that interesting. I guess it worked for the film and what I was going for, but all in all, I didn't think the soundtrack was anything to write home about. It just felt like it served its purpose and that's it. Which is a shame compared to the rest of the film, which does everything 100%, where I felt like the soundtrack only gives like 50% effort into making the story have the impact it needed to. But all in all, I thought this was a really good movie, and the ending is absolutely crazy and worth the price of admission. If you're into horror, I definitely recommend this one, especially body horror. We don't get enough of this. I felt like the message too that I was trying to go for was a good one, told in a very brutal and gruesome way, but it's a cautionary tale of sorts, really, and how insecurity can't affect your entire life, and how you should be able to still be happy with who you are right now and not let the whole world try to dictate who you are as a person, really. And I felt like that message was able to go through very well by the end, especially with how and where our character ended up at this point in the film. I'm gonna give The Substance an A-. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I'll see you guys next time.